recording this. Sorry. So I was saying this discussion comes at an important moment for the evaluation profession. Artificial intelligence is increasingly influencing how evidence is generated, synthesized, interpreted, and communicated. At the same time, questions around trust, credibility, transparency, ethics, and professional judgment are becoming more central to evaluation practice. Today's discussion brings together complementary perspectives on these issues: ethical and professional safeguards in AI-supported evidence systems, and secondly, practical reflections on how evaluation system can remain trusted, relevant, and decision-oriented in increasingly data-rich environments. We are very pleased to have with us our two distinguished speakers and contributors. Before we begin, here's just a reminder of a few housekeeping issues. This session is being recorded and it will be made available on the EvalforEarth website. Please keep your microphones muted when you are not speaking. And if you would like to contribute during the discussion, you might use the raise hand function and we'll give you the platform to speak. You may also post your questions and comments in the chat throughout the session. We'll reserve time for Q&A towards the end of the session. We encourage respectful and inclusive language and engagement as usual throughout the session. Now, allow me to briefly walk you through the flow of today's session. After these short remarks from my end, we have brief introductory remarks. We will hear opening reflections from Domago, who will help us set the tone, contextualizing the discussion. We will then hear two presentations from our two distinguished speakers, Dr. Uzodimma, followed by Florence. Following their presentations, we open the floor for discussions and engagements through a moderated Q&A. We will conclude with a few closing reflections and key take-home messages. Now, to help us frame the broader context for today's discussion, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Domago. Domago is a senior manager at CGIAR's Independent Advisory and Evaluation Service and a steering group member for EvalforEarth. He brings extensive experience from CGIAR, the European Food Safety Authority, and the World Food Programme, where he worked across monitoring, evaluation, communication of scientific evidence, and performance and risk management. Domago, thank you for joining. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Innocent. I see we're increasing in participation, so I was just adding some people to the call. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to be here today with my colleague Innocent and all our speakers to open the session on evidence we can trust, AI, ethics, and the future of evaluation practice. So, as Innocent mentioned, my name is Domago. I work at the CGIAS, Independent Advisory and Evaluation Service, and I'm a proud member of the steering group for EvalforEarth, our community of practice that we are so proud of on evaluation for food security, environment, agriculture, and rural development. So basically, I'm here speaking on behalf of this steering group of the sponsoring partners and evaluation offices of FAO, World Food Programme, CGIAR, and the Global Environment Fund, with also support of offices from IFAD and the New Development Bank. So I'm particularly proud to open this session because CGIAS was actually one of the first offices to issue the technical note on consideration and practical applications on use of AI in evaluation. And I'm going to paste that technical note in the chat so you have an opportunity to go through it when you have time and familiarize yourself with this document, which gives a bit of a framework on core principles that actually ground the application of AI in evaluation. These principles, of course, include transparency, clear documentation of AI usage, data sources, and decision-making process. The second one is accountability. I think we know that we need to assign responsibility for AI decisions and outputs we put out there and establish some oversight mechanisms. Fairness inclusion, so that we mitigate any bias and we have particular attention to unrepresented groups and data gaps, and groups, data privacy and security. This is also Very important, aligning with applicable protection regulations and ensuring that the data we use for evaluations using AI is handled in the right way. And finally, of course, human oversight, without which evaluation retains control over process and can intervene as needed. So I think this is important, and we need to think about this as we go through this session, because all of these principles will be important to guide the use of AI in evaluation. We talk about this on top of another concept, which is also quite close to my heart, which is trust. So in the realm of science, communication, and development, I think without going into too much definitions, social science researchers agree that when we talk about trust, trust is very much dependent on both confidence of the people that read our evaluation and the competence of people who participate in the process. So to maintain trust, it is really essential to rely on systems and practices that are ethically grounded, scientifically verified, feasible from a resource point of view, and clearly communicated. So evaluation is really a process going from the, let's say, the basis of what we're evaluating all the way to communication. Never forget that the process is a lengthy one and AI can be used across the process. So I think that encapsulates wonderfully the speakers will have today, their expertise and the discussions we will have during this webinar. But I also want to have a shout out in the end to the EvalforEarth participation in Glocal, which has been really, really extraordinary this week. We had 6 sessions in total. We had on Monday, we had a session in French and in Spanish. L'évaluation à l'ère de IA, les évaluateurs émergents peuvent nous apprendre. That was on Monday. And Evaluación en la era de inteligencia artificial, evidencias y gobernanza. That was Monday. On Tuesday, we had a session in French on la concepción de projet à la gouvernance de système. And Wednesday, we had a session in English, doing more. That was an interagency session, doing more with less while not losing trust. Yesterday, a session on grounding AI and evaluation from Guinea-Bissau, Nepal, and Georgia. And today, to close the EvalforEarth, let's say, really this big set of sessions, we are proudly concluding with evidence we can trust, AI ethics, and the future evaluation practice. So thank you for being here. And thank you so much for the speakers. We have more than 50 people in the call, which is great. It is Friday, and it's been a long local week. So thank you for your continued interest. And I hand it over to Innocent and the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Zomago, for those important reflections and for helping frame the broader context for today's discussions. Your remarks highlighted a number of issues that are increasingly central to evaluation practice today. The importance of transparency, accountability, fairness, inclusion, data protection, and importantly, maintaining meaningful human oversight in AI-supported system. You also mentioned or reminded us that trust in evaluation is not built on any technical competence, but also on confidence in the system, institutions, and processes through which evidence is generated and used. It is now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Uzodima Adrija. Dr. Adrija is a development expert, climate health economist, evaluator, and CEO of AfriHealth Optonate Association. He brings over 2 decades of experience in evaluation, public policy, research, and ethical evidence system. His presentation today is titled Trust, Credibility, and Ethics in AI-Supported Evidence. Doctor, thank you very much for joining. You have the floor.
Thank you. Would you kindly permit me to share because it says only the host can share.
Sorry, doctors, we are having echoes. I'm not hearing you clearly. May you please come again?
It says only the host can share. I want to share my slides.
All right.
Let me try that now.
Please, you can try
so
again.
That you send a request for me to. You can't request sharing for this meeting. So
sorry,
is there a way you or you share because you already have the document?
Okay, but doctor, it seems as if we are joined on 2 devices and we are having echoes. So is it possible that you mute the other device from your end so that we don't have
I will mute, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hello. Thank you, everyone that has joined this session. First, I want to congratulate the organizers. I welcome all of you to EvalforEarth program. This topic has already been introduced. We are looking at trust, credibility, and ethics in AI-supported evidence. Distinguished colleagues, I am honored to speak on the subject of trust, credibility, and ethics in AI-supported evidence. My name is Dr. Uzodimma Adirieje. I am the CEO of EvalforEarth Community Association and a past national president of Nigerian Association of Evaluators. I actually was the consultant that drafted, co-consultant that drafted Nigeria's evaluation policy. So artificial intelligence, as we all know now, is transforming everything, even the way we think. But in evaluation, it is transforming how we collect, analyze, and interpret evidence or data. AI is transforming evaluation practice. We now have automated data analysis, which is increasing the predictive modeling and at the same time expanding ethical concerns. For instance, such things as, is the reference correct? The document you are referencing to, because at the end, AI will still tell you that it could be wrong. After giving you all information, it tells you that AI could be wrong. So the concern includes all these. Is the evidence you have correct? So why does this matter? This matters because evaluation depends on trust. Evidence must therefore be credible. But then AI can strengthen or weaken this credibility. I've already told you how. So ethical safeguards are essential. How do we? I don't have the answers yet. I've been trying. How do we ensure that what AI generates for us is factual and 100% reliable? So we therefore we are trying to look at examining AI in evaluation. Need to identify the risks. I've just mentioned some of them. How then do we strengthen trust in evidence in the midst of all these risks? AI issues an official disclaimer telling you that what it has given you could be wrong. So how do we strengthen trust in that information that AI has given us? How do we define the safeguards? And then what should be the proposals and guiding principles for us to use in order to avoid such situations? These are open questions that I'm throwing up so that those who have answers can actually let us use it, because what I'm doing now is trying to explore how AI is used in evaluation. In practice, AI is used for data collections as data collection tool, machine learning analysis, predictive models, automated reporting, and policy simulations. What this means that right now AI is used across the evaluation cycle. And this is very important because at any point in the evaluation cycle that we get our facts, or data wrong, the subsequent points in the cycle are compromised. All right. So what are the opportunities in all this? Good enough, AI offers enormous opportunities. I admire the speed. I appreciate the scale. I acknowledge the efficiency, especially because I've discovered that over time, AI now thinks like me. the responses AI gives me now look like what I'll give myself in the same circumstance. If I give myself the same prompt, whether it is the AI that is trying to tap my brain or my brain that is tapping the AI, I don't know. But I discover, interestingly, that some responses it gives me, I don't add or subtract up to 2% over time. So it tells me things exactly the way I would have told myself. And I will be looking at them, they look like a typical doctor's write-up. Okay. So big data analysis could also be an issue, but I would say frankly that from what I know, if we are to rely on AI, if AI were to become very reliable, big data analysis is nothing with AI. There is no limit from my experience from the data it can analyze. But the thing is, how reliable now will it be among the 7 issues that matter in evaluation? So how do we also use AI to do better forecasting? I look at this as coming from the point that AI can help you plan. So if it can help you plan, can it also help make better forecasting? Then how can we cannot rely on an evidence if we cannot trust it. So, of course, trust in evaluation depends on transparency, reliability on the evidence, the transparency of the information, and even processes. Verifiableness, how can we verify, like what I was saying, that every reference, for instance, that AI gives you in your references is exactly what it is at the source it mentions, presented the same way it is, both in terms of the volume of the publication, the page, the publisher, the name, and the rest of them. At the level of verification, AI cannot do professional judgment for you, but it can influence your professional judgment because of what it presents to you and what it does for you. So how also can we make that, ensure transparency and reliability in that? And of course, being able to account for every data that AI gives so that we are not guessing, we are sure, we can ascertain. What this means is that despite what AI is giving us, the evaluator or whoever is working with AI needs to do more due diligence in the information provided so that you see that what you are getting reflects your thinking. Otherwise, adjust and change your prompt or amend what you've been given. Okay, so looking at such issues as bias in algorithm, data privacy issues, misuse of the results, output, immediate product of your use of AI, the immediate product of AI, misusing it without, again, applying the brain to it in terms of analysis and caution and integrity. Lack of consent, because sometimes AI looks through everything that is on the internet. Fire gives you information. You may not know some of those information for which you require consent before using. There may be very few, but what if they occur at all? It begins to query what you're presenting. Now, the issue of risk of manipulation. Truth is that AI cannot work for you without your own manipulation of AI. It is what you call prompt. In prompt engineering within AI, it is the prompt you give AI that brings the answer. I must say, however, that among several AI tools, sometimes for the same prompt, they give you different information and different answers. So you again look for which of these AI tools that approximates what you would have done if you were doing this as a person. so that you rely more on that while trying the other ones, because experience has also shown me that over time, those other tools get used to your prompting and the way your brain reasons and begin to present to you again what looks like what you can present for yourself by yourself, even without editing. So human judgment, therefore, is very essential, like I've always said. Let us be certain. Artificial intelligence is meant to support human evaluators, not replace us. Let's look at AI as an aid in evaluation, not endpoint, not even the arbiter, not even the decider of what should be, but an aid to help us work faster because it has incredible speed. It can help us save time so that we are just proofreading what it has brought and then be able to check whether the information and data and references are in order and whether it has framed everything the way we want it. Definitely, it is easier, cheaper, more effective to read up and amend than you begin to dig for data, which is what AI would already do for you in seconds. Also, all the vicarious responsibilities and liabilities are on us, the evaluators. AI is not responsible for what you eventually give out. And that is what I would want the world to understand. The computer, the internet is helping everybody to work. Without the computer, we'll be writing everything on hand. That is the kind of aid AI gives to people who work at that level. Because the same thing you are typing and sending, you can also write by hand. Should we now insist that people should write it by hand so that we will be sure that the handwriting is their own? No. They should type, use computer, type it, disseminate, and people use it for the value, provided whoever is doing this owns up what is produced by AI at the end. And that is where your proofreading will come in. And so at that point, you must strengthen your professional standards. Ethically, you do oversight on what you're using to work. Continue to improve your AI literacy and perfection, because even artificial intelligence is improving by the day. It has not reached where it's going. It's improving by the day. Then, of course, we'll always have institutional review. The third person out there, like right now, there's an IRB that there is something that AfriEarth is expecting from the Institutional Review Board in one of the states of Nigeria, and we need it. Whatever we have submitted, those at the IRB would have to look at it. That's the institutional review is important, whether it's internal or external. And of course, accountability. We are responsible for what we give out, not AI. So we must also therefore ensure very clear safeguards for everyone at every time. Ethical guidelines must be followed. We must maintain transparency. Data must be protected, and where we need permission, we must find permission to use. So when we look through, we see whether some of the data AI has given us require protection or permission. The independent review is very important, first by you. You must be the arbiter and reviewer of what AI has given you in evaluation so that you be able to own it. And then documentation, once you are through with it, just understand that whatever comes in documentation, you are responsible for it. In Africa and the rest of developing countries, especially in Global South, there are special risks in this regard. The digital divide is a problem. Unequal access is persisting. There is permanent external control. Meanwhile, it is permanent. The external control in the digital divide is almost permanent now, but we will find ways to keep adjusting and adapting. Then the context matters, and that is why this control is very risky, because those who are controlling the digital environment do not exist in the same context as all of us. So I guess also that the digital space managers will have to improve so that as much as possible, they are in tune with our own contexts. And then there is the need for local ownership cannot be overemphasized. So we expect also that as we go, those of us from countries of the global south should also get into the AI space, be able to own some of them and then influence them to reflect our own context. For civil society, from which I have always been for more than 30 years, the civil society plays a vital role in this. We have the role to protect accountability, protect ethics by acting ethically, support inclusion by ensuring transparency, strengthen trust by making our data information very reliable, correct, and then keep advocating for responsible use, approach, utilization, management, and deployment of artificial intelligence based on the principles that should follow this way: fairness, transparency, accountability, inclusiveness, human oversight, context sensitivity. As evaluators, therefore, we should apply more practical steps. Number one, review before you use. In terms of AI, review whether the AI tool would work for what you want, because different AI tools work for different interventions and approaches and activities. There are some that help you in plain writing, some help you in pictorials, some help you in presentations, and so on. Some help in research. Validate every data. Every data should be validated. And then document the method you're using every time. Sometimes we are trying to deliver that we don't really document these methods. It's very important, including mention that you've used AI to do this, but however, every of these measures that are required to make this data is reliable, you've taken it, and therefore you are owning the data and the information. We need to continue to see how we ensure human control over this. Although if you ask me, I will still say they are subject to human control because they are made by humans. So they're still substantially under human control. Stakeholders, we must engage. Let them know that AI has come here to support the work we do. Make things faster for us. Reach where we cannot reach easily, and present to us some information we can now dig deeper on its face value to ensure that it reflects what we want and that we own it. And or otherwise, we amend it at that point. So AI can therefore strengthen evaluation, definitely, through better awareness, stronger ethics, more credible evidence, responsible AI use, and improved evaluation practice. I must say that these 5 factors have to be effected by the evaluator, not AI.
Sorry, Doc, to interrupt you. May you kindly wrap up? Maybe you have 2 minutes so that at least we can go to the next speaker and have a discussion. Thank you.
Technology should therefore serve society. AI must enhance, not replace, like I said. Ethical human judgment is essential. Without trust, evidence fails. So we need to trust that AI means well, that we'll deploy it well, because trust is the foundation, credibility is the standard. In ethics, we have our safeguard. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I must thank you for listening to me. And it's nice being with you during this local evaluation week. My name is Dr. Zodima Adrieje. I live and work evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. I mean, I wish we could have the whole day discussing this. Thank you so much, Doc, for this very important presentation. crystal clear and for grounding the discussion in ethics, professional responsibility, and trustworthy evidence system. You also reminded us that AI should support and not replace human evaluators, which is particularly important in an increasingly automated evidence system and world. We now move on to our second speaker and presenter, Florence. Let me introduce Florence Randai, who is a monitoring, evaluation, and learning advisor and founder of Learn Adapt Management, LAM in short. Florence supports the development uh, Florence support development programs in strengthening evidence use, adaptive management, and learning system. Your presentation today is titled Maintaining Trust and Credibility in Evaluation. Florence, thank you so much for joining us. You have the floor. Let me know, Florence, if you would want me to share your PowerPoint presentation or if you are able to share from your end.
Thank you, Innocent. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Sure, I can hear you and I can see your screen. Please proceed. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for hosting Innocent and the EvalforEarth community. My name is Florence, and my focus in this space is on evidence use and adaptive management. And I love what the previous speakers have said because it's very complementary to what I will be sharing. But my focus is on evidence use. And I know that most of us, if you're an evaluator or you are a part of the people who are producing evidence, then you really care about that evidence being used, right? So as much as we are putting a lot of effort into discussing AI and the implications of AI to our work, I think the lens that we also must maintain is how the evidence will be used. So what does this mean to the evidence users? So my presentation is going to be bringing in that perspective of what do we have to do in this age of AI to ensure that the evidence that we are producing is also being used. So try and move forward. Here we go. So I'm going to be looking at a couple of things. So thinking about how do we design our evaluations, and evaluations here can replace anything that has to do with evidence production. So if you're generating or producing evidence, how do we design those activities around decisions? So that has to be the key thing. And then how do we determine the appropriate rigor in data-rich environments? So AI has made it very, very easy for us to be able to have all this information, a lot of it, and also coming at us with a lot of speed. So how do we determine the appropriate rigor as we think about evidence in this age? Why does collective interpretation still matter? So I know with AI, it's easy for us to say, well, we're just putting this in AI and the report is out or the dashboard is out, and that's what the decision makers need. But based on research, we know that collective interpretation of information is still very critical. So how do we make sure that we don't lose that, even as AI is coming in to replace some of the work that was being done by humans? And then what is the implication for trusted evaluation practice? That is how we will be closing this session. So as we just heard from Doc and a lot of other speakers during this G-Local week, AI is changing how evidence is being generated, how it's synthesized, and how it's communicated. So I am not an AI expert myself. I'm a practitioner who is every day thinking about what does AI mean for my work, right? So when I think about AI, I think about the full chain from evidence generation to evidence use, and I see where does AI come in and what does that mean for my work. So we know that AI is in all those phases in the cycle of evidence. AI is doing something at each level. But what we need to agree is that more evidence doesn't automatically lead to better decision. And as evaluators, as people who are producing evidence, I hope that you think a lot about how your evidence is being used or how it will be used. And it's really ultimately to inform decisions. So more evidence doesn't necessarily and doesn't automatically lead to better decisions. So we still need to think about the decisions. So the trust that we are talking about, we talked about trust and we looked at Domergue defined it as, the confidence in the people who are bringing out the evidence, but also the competence of the evaluators. But what we know is that trust begins before the evaluation starts. So way before data generation, we need to start thinking about trust, right? So it's really shaped from how we do our work when we are at the design stage of evaluation and also of data generation activities. So what I want to really focus on here, because it could be a very long talk, but we're just going to briefly look at designing around decisions to ensure that our evidence is able to be used, and then the appropriate rigor that we require, and collective interpretation and use. So when we talk about designing around decisions, there is a whole science about how to do this. But I think what we need to be very clear is that more data does not automatically increase credibility. A lot of us will always say, okay, what problem are they trying to solve? Let's get as much data as possible or as much information as possible. This does not automatically increase credibility, right? What is really, really, really essential for decision makers is they think about what information do I need? So what is the decision stake, right, at this level? What is the context? What is the level of uncertainty? Because that can also define the rigor that the decision makers actually need, and what are the timelines. And I know the timeline issue can be handled very, very first with AI, with people who say we need data coming in faster. So we know AI has helped us to do that, but that doesn't take away all the other consideration that needs to be made, right? Like the context, the level of uncertainty, the rigor that will be required for that decision. So we need to really have this broader perspective. And then the next point is human interpretation. So I know we have already had that from Doc's presentation. We can't emphasize it enough, but we are even moving forward to say we are not just talking about the evaluator and what they need to do to interpret the information that is generated through AI, but we are really looking at collective interpretation, right? So AI can identify patterns, it can summarize information, accelerate synthesis, but we still need to really ground our evidence in the context, right? Which in most cases, as Doc said, we have biased information coming out because the AI maybe fully doesn't understand the context, right? Tacit knowledge, we can't emphasize this enough. And as most of us know, tacit knowledge is not the type of knowledge that you will find in a report. So it's not there in your AI, whatever chatbots, right? Like it's not there. This, you have to go, you have to connect with people, you have to build those relationships, you have to listen to them, and then you have to take that in and triangulate with what you have. So we can't leave this out. And then dialogue as well. And dialogue here, we mean dialogue between you and other humans. It's not dialogue between you and the chatbot, right? Which I know you can do very well. And then the human judgment that we mentioned earlier as well. That is something that we can't miss. So as I conclude, I hope you really get the emphasis here about designing for decisions and making sure that we have collective interpretation. So what are the implications for evaluation practice, right? So we need clearer decision intent. Before you design that evaluation, before you do the data collection activity, center the decisions in your design. Ask who is the user of this evidence? What decisions do they need to make? And involve those people, right? and then proportional rigor. So when it comes to rigor, we need to really think about, but what will help you figure out what's the appropriate rigor is the decision that needs to be made. So what is the decision that needs to be made? What is the appropriate rigor, right? And then we know, is this something that I can just Google online and find, something and give a decision maker, or do I need to think about a structured methodology for this, right? So we really need to be asking these questions. And then human oversight, this has been emphasized enough. And then strong facilitation of evidence use. We need stronger facilitation of evidence use, let's say. For a lot of evaluation specialists, the facilitation of evidence use is not something that we are really putting a lot of effort in, but it's something that we need to do. More so right now in the age of AI, because data does not speak for itself. Your beautiful dashboard is not going to speak. Your report is not going to speak, but you need to be there to facilitate the interpretation and the conversation among the users and help them to translate that into actual information that they can use for their work. So thank you very much. I will hand it over back to Innocent for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Florence, for being short, precise, and also, for these thoughtful reflections. Thank you once again for emphasizing the importance of decision intent in evaluation design and reminding us that evaluation must ultimately inform meaningful decisions. Your reflections on proportional rigor were particularly relevant. You're reminding us again that more data does not necessarily translate into more credible evidence. Very useful insights as well on the continued importance of collective interpretation, tacit knowledge, dialogue, and human judgment within the evaluation practice. Now we will move on to the last segment. We still have 10 minutes, to also hear from our participants. So thank you once again, Dr. and Florence. I will now open the floor for those who have got comments, questions. I see Dr. Ponge there. Dr. Ponge, would you want to say something, comment or question? Dr. Au Ponge.
Yes.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Doc.
Okay, thanks so much, the chair and the presenters. I've taken note of a lot of points which have been very helpful from Dr. Uzodima and also from Florence, specifically from Dr. Uzodima, where he mentioned that we are responsible for what we produce through AI, and that human intelligence is the final arbiter in the decision making, especially involving evidence generated by AI. And this is also related to what Florence has mentioned, specifically about more evidence does not necessarily generate, does not automatically lead to better decision making, and that human interpretation still matters because trust is strengthened through collective interpretation. So I just want to find out from Florence, and maybe Dr. Uzodima could also chip in here. What are the possible indications of these triggers as to when and where we should use or not use decisions made by artificial intelligence? And at what point specifically should we bring in the human intelligence and also collective interpretation? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ponge, for those comments and for the questions. Maybe we can take one more question. I see Tamari Magaisa. Would you want to open your mic and then ask your question? Otherwise, I can read your question, but it would be good if we can also hear from you. Tamari Magaisa, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, both for very informative presentations. My question is mostly on how one can protect the data, especially for vulnerable groups, when you are using AI. I mostly use Cloudy AI, and I'm always worried about data leak, especially after collecting data, and then I load my transcripts or something into Cloudy for analysis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Somari, for that question. Maybe over to you, Doc and Florence, or even Domagog for the response. It's over to you. I don't know who would want to come first. Florence?
Thank you, Innocent. So I think I can briefly address Dr. Ponge's question about where we can use AI and where we need human interpretation or human judgment. So the way I look at it as a practitioner who is really involved in the full, what I call the evidence pathway. So I come in from the planning stage. So before we even think about an evaluation, for example, I start with the planning where it really involves the decision makers or the commissioners of the evaluation to start thinking about what decisions they need to make, right? And this question I have changed from what data do you need? Because people will tell you they need a lot of things, but if you ask them about decisions, then that can help you as an evaluator advise them on what type of data would be appropriate, right? So that's where I feel like we can't really use AI to replace that part. So when it comes to thinking, putting the structures in place, we need to do that as humans and really center decisions in that part of the planning. And then from there, I think all the other steps is us being very critical on how we use AI, because we can use AI to design our tools, for example, to choose the appropriate methodology, right, to do data collection right now using agents, right? So AI then in those processes can be used, but when we talk about human judgment, I don't believe that we use AI and then at the end of the loop we involve humans. We need to involve humans in each and every step, right? That's why conversations about prompting that I feel like we are not having a lot, we should have a lot, because then in that prompting is where we need to use the human logic of how do we ensure that as we do the prompt, we are taking into consideration the evaluation ethics, for example, or the rigor that is required, right? So we need humans across the full pathway, but there are stages where it's more exclusively human, right? When we get to collective interpretation, get in a room with actual human beings, ensure that you have representative from different levels. We need tacit knowledge that we are not going to get in a report. So where do we find that? Who are the people who hold it? And how do we ensure that they're involved in the conversation? So Dr. Pong, I think my answer is we need humans across the whole pathway, figure out what AI does as a tool, but maintain the human credibility and human judgment.
Thank you so much, Florence, for these reflections. I do not know if Doctor, if you would want
Yes,
to
I have.
add more, please.
Let me chip in something. Now, the first issue of where and when we should use AI, I must say that AI is helpful across all the gamut. However, you will find it most useful when you are dealing with analysis of large data sets. When you are looking at repetitive tasks, it helps you call it up anytime. In fact, AI is such that you can save your work on AI. And then when you want to work again, it retrieves it for you. So it is also good when we want to retrieve information, when we want to use any information that we will eventually want to be retrieving or repeating in the course of work. It helps us support research because it, like I said earlier, it can easily swim in the ocean of global data in seconds and get you response, which you can then use your own knowledge to analyze and prefer. It helps in generating ideas. You can pose questions to AI, and AI will give you ideas which you are not compelled to use. You consider them and put them in the best way you want to use them, and then use them. That is how it also improves communication. So when you want to improve communication, you can use AI, as well as when you're in forecasting. Now, AI can enhance efficiency from what we have seen now. It can enhance the speed. In fact, AI enhances efficiency. It enhances speed. It enhances productivity. With AI, you can do in 1 hour something you could have been doing in 1 week, frankly speaking, if you are not relying on AI, provided you understand and are knowledgeable about prompt engineering. Because from my experience, the highest level of interaction and use of AI lies in prompting. Whatever you tell it, it's what gives you. I must say, however, that AI should not be relied upon alone for decision-making in issues involving people's health, the law, maybe job issues, ethics, human rights, and so on. Human judgment remains essential, yeah. And I must emphasize, especially where the context, cultural understanding, accountability, empathy, and moral reasoning
Innocent, I think we lost Dr. Uzodinma.
I think it dropped out. But I'm sure we have heard his contributions. Just looking at the hour, I think we have 3 minutes, so we have to wrap up. Maybe Domago, if you've got,
can you hear me?
Please.
Yeah,
please, Doc. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
You remember I told you I would have to open to join in 2 farms. So I'm speaking to you from my hand now. My laptop went down, like I just told you. The battery went down.
Sure.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. So okay, thank you so much, Doc. So I was saying, Jomakok, I do not know if I've got any last parting words, and then I'll go to Florence and we wrap it up. Jomakok?
Maybe just a comment on the question on the data loss. I think it's a very valid question. Obviously, all the online tools have different plans, and there are some assurances about for different plans that are selected to which extent the data you input is going to be used for training of future anthropic models. So if there's some options for Claude, I think if you have a team or a pro, you can opt out of using it for training, and there are some that by default there's data storage. However, there's also, this is interesting, there's also the question of trusting what the AI says. To what extent do we trust that it's really used or not used? So it goes back to the trust. I do think that using non-open solutions, but more licensed solutions does provide some safeguards to data loss, if possible. So I do think that's a valid point to make and something to keep in mind as we use it, especially using sensitive data. That said, thank you. It was a great discussion, very aligned, which I really liked. Everyone's on the same page, just wants to contribute to using AI better in a more responsible way in evaluation. And I think that's a great thing to see. So I think on that note, Innocent, we can be happy and leave the floor to you for closure.
Okay, thank you. I see. I think I'm gonna give 1 minute each. I see, Doc, you've got your hands. Your hand is up.
Yes,
Do you want to say the final parting words, please, Doc? Please go ahead.
I want to address someone spoke that she uses Cloudy. There are several AI tools. Cloudy is one of them. If you rely on Cloudy to do all your work, you will not address well areas that Cloudy does not address. Cloudy is not so good in research and essay. But when you want to do things like animation, you can rely on Cloudy. It can also help you deep. But please, always, depending on what you want to do, you don't just rely on one AI tool. This is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc, for highlighting that. Florence, any parting words?
Yes, thanks, Innocent. My last comment is that trust and credibility starts before AI comes in the picture. So let's think about how to ensure that before we integrate AI in our work streams, we're thinking about trust and credibility. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Florence. As we come to the close of today's session, I would like to thank once again our two distinct speakers, as well as Domagog for his additional reflections. I mean, you would agree with me that we could have maybe continued with this discussion for the rest of the day, but unfortunately, we do not have time. We have had, these interesting discussions since Monday. But I think what came out from today's discussion, from my end, I think we're just reminded that trust remains the foundation of evaluation practice. We've heard that while AI presents important opportunities for efficient synthesis, forecasting, and evidence generation, technology alone cannot guarantee credibility. On behalf of EvalforEarth, I would also like to thank all participants who joined us from the different parts of the world and who contributed actively. I was looking in the chat, quite a lot of comments and questions there. We'll continue this discussion on EvalforEarth platform, and we encourage those who are not yet members of EvalforEarth to please join us. It's free. We will further these discussions in the coming weeks and months. Lastly, I have shared in the chat a short feedback summary. Let me just share again the link. Would greatly appreciate to hear from you. Your thoughts would help us strengthen our events as we continue with our discussions on EvalforEarth. Once again, thank you all for your participation. From my end, it's bye-bye for now. Until next time, stay safe and thank you and bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.